Police in Birmingham have made 33 arrests following disorder that erupted during a demonstration against so-called Islamic fundamentalism. The demo had been arranged by the English Defence League and Casuals United, a group of right-wing football supporters. But the group, which say they're opposed to Islamic extremism in the UK, came head-to-head with anti-fascists and members of the Muslim community. Here's more.
What I would ask you guys is to listen to what the stewards say and to help and keep this sensible, okay? We don't want any trouble, we don't want people getting nicked, and we don't want any fighting if we can possibly avoid it, please.
Leaders of the Unite Against Fascism group calling for calm before an anti-fascist demonstration in central Birmingham. They had called for the protest in reaction to a demo billed as being against Islamic fundamentalism being held by groups of right-wing football supporters calling themselves English Defence League and Casuals United.
We're here today because the English Defence League, which is an organisation of racist and fascist thugs whose kind of central core are, very, very strong BNP supporters, are wanting to march in our city today, and they want to have an anti-Muslim demonstration, and they're trying to divide people with that message. They came here on the 4th of July without warning to anybody in the city, and they went unopposed, and that gave them the confidence to want to come back again. Today we've got hundreds and hundreds of UAF, that's Unite Against Fascism supporters, here today who are actually going to stand up to them and say we don't want racism, we don't want Islamophobia in our city.
Alongside anti-fascist campaigners were a couple of hundred young British Muslim males, drawn predominantly from the city's large Pakistani population.
Islam's about peace, you get me, but obviously we defend ourselves, so if they're going to come and try anything,
we're to create peace and then
we're British, you get me, we're equal to them as well, you get me. We're not going nowhere, put it like that. I'm not staying here. Yeah, me.
But not everyone there seemed to be planning on keeping the peace. Off camera, some young Muslims told me they had no intention of shying away from violent confrontations. I asked one of the campaign's organisers if he thought he was playing with fire by assembling such a large group of young men with emotions running high.
In Luton, the communities met and decided we weren't going to call a demonstration like this, that we'd stand together in a different form of unity, and that the police would make sure that the BNP did not get to march through the cities. Unfortunately, 150 masked men went around attacking women and children, and the reason why we're here is to show that there's more of us near as them, and we want to send a message to them. Do not come to our communities to intimidate us. Right, we are peaceful, we are courteous, but if you lay a hand on us, we will make sure that our communities are defended.
Supporters of the English Defence League assembled at the other end of the High Street, where they were surrounded by a heavy police presence. But despite alleged links to the BNP, the group was eager to emphasise that it wasn't in fact racist or anti-Muslim, but was only opposed to the kind of extremism exemplified by Anjem Chowdhury in his vocal protests against British troops in Luton.
We're not preaching hatred, we're actually saying tolerate everybody as long as you tolerate us. When you have things like Sharia law and things like that, you're not tolerating everyone, you're trying to push your laws onto us, and that's what we're not. That's what we're protesting against. Why shouldn't we? This is Birmingham, this is England. You want to live here, you live by our laws, not your own. You don't bring your laws here. This is our country.
This is our country, this is where we was born.
It's not a racist thing. If you're Muslim, or you're black, or you're whatever, you're welcome here, but you live by our laws, mate, because all we're against is the people that stand against our soldiers, saying you're murderers.
Eager to highlight their anti-racist nature, they shook hands with a black onlooker and invited him to join them. Yet despite this, many remain unconvinced that such words are little more than spin, and that away from the eyes of the camera, the group are indeed racist. The protest was advertised on openly white supremacist websites such as Stormfront, and groups such as the BNP have in recent times attempted to broaden their support base to include groups such as Hindus and Sikhs by claiming to only be targeting Muslims. Trouble flared when supporters of the rival groups threatened to spill past police lines.
This is exactly the scenario that so many people feared would happen. Groups of Asian youth and anti-fascist supporters clashing with supporters of the EDL. So far, police have managed to keep them apart, but tensions remain extremely high.
And despite the police efforts, there were incidents of violence. Here, a white man is attacked by a black and Asian group. Scenes such as these are exactly the reason some had qualms about the anti-fascist protest. Whilst the EDL was seemingly intelligent enough to keep their message relatively uncontroversial, the sight of young Muslim men engaged in scenes of violence, no matter how sporadic, are hardly likely to inspire confidence amongst the rest of the British population. However, it is important to keep the disorder in perspective. 33 arrests were made, but some groups had told me they were planning on bringing knives and petrol bombs. This never materialised. This was no Bradford riot, but with the EDL planning more demonstrations in Luton and Manchester, which many will see as attempts to deliberately provoke violence, the scene looks set for an escalation in tensions.
Taliban commander Saifullah Masood says he believes that the Pakistani Taliban chief Baitullah Masood was killed in a US missile attack and has predicted that infighting for succession in the party will escalate.